Okay, today on the show, we have Khoi Lee from Hunter Chase Realty in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico. Let me tell you a little bit about Khoi. Khoi has been in the real estate, it has been in real estate rather, for over a decade and enjoys traveling to teach real estate across the nation. He is the operations officer and head trainer for his brokerage. He attended a top 10 worldwide college for his master's of business administration in management of technology, graduating college in Albuquerque at 19, which is incredible. I didn't graduate till I was 22. Shows you what I did in college. But he also won the UNM business school competition, which has allowed him to pursue his dreams of helping others through real estate. As a master certified negotiations expert, Khoi loves to find the deal and make dreams come true. His background in psychology has been a tremendous help in this relationship oriented industry. Khoi loves to teach social media to agents and local businesses because it is such a powerful tool to create and deepen relationships. He is also a member of NAGLREP, which is the National Association of Gay and Lesbian Real Estate Professionals. And we reached out to NAGLREP earlier this month and told them we'd like to feature more of their members on our show. And Khoi was the very first person they recommended. So we are so excited to speak with him today. Please follow Khoi on Instagram. You can find him at the Khoi, which is TheKhoi. So Instagram, the Khoi. Khoi, welcome to our show. We're so excited to have you.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for that great introduction. Couldn't have written it better myself.
Well, we are here to celebrate, top agents and what they did to get to where they are. We're nearing about 300 episodes, and our audience just loves hearing from successful realtors. I just saw a statistic. Well, actually, my boss told me about the statistic. I didn't see it, but there are 100,000 more realtors now as there were about 10 years ago. So it
Wow.
has really exploded. And obviously, content like this, I think, is really helpful for our listeners who can hear from somebody who's had so much success so young. So I'd love to start all the way at the beginning of your real estate career. Obviously, you crushed college at a very early age, which is beyond impressive. But tell us how you got into real estate.
So I I'm actually from Vietnam, and my mom immigrated with me to America. We lived in various cities, but we ended up in Albuquerque, and she worked multiple jobs, but she knew that the first thing she needed to do was get a house. Okay. And so when we purchased our first house, of course, I was younger and everything, and she started her own business, a jewelry business,
Wow.
and bought more houses, etc. But there was a big frustration. The frustration was she didn't speak English well, and she
Sure.
didn't know how to read English well.
Sure.
So what comes with that is an opportunity for people to take advantage of. And I just remember one time when we lost a lot because an agent went out and took advantage of this, and we
Hmm.
lost our deposit on a house, and he took it,
Wow.
and yeah, so when you come over here and for a opportunity, and everything like that, and then you lose everything that you worked for because
Right.
somebody swindled you out of it, that's a major blow. So of course I committed to going to college, and everything like that. It's a case of and we talked about this a little bit off air too. It's hard to just speak about the struggles and everything, but I'm okay with sharing because I feel like it's important for people to know that it doesn't matter where you come from.
Right.
You can achieve whatever you want. So there was bouts of homelessness,
Wow.
sharing, 10 people to a room, etc. But we did what we had to do. I went to college, got out as soon as I can because I knew that the faster I got out, the sooner I can, help out. So with that, I did the management of technology school.
Sure.
So I sold my first business, which was a biodiesel business.
So
And then
were you a developer, or you were just a tech guy, or? Tell us if you don't mind
Yeah,
sharing about that.
management technology is cool. So what you do is you work with like engineers and you work with sciencey people, and then you take their ideas because what they're good at is sciencey stuff. What I'm
Sure.
good at is marketing
Right.
and logistics and everything. So we take that idea and we take it to from a seed company into the marketplace, IPOs and things like that. And we're very lucky that we have three big labs here: Los Alamos Labs, Sandia Labs, and also the laboratories at UNM. So we would take ideas, see where we can commercialize them, and take them to market. We advised on angel investments and everything like that. So because of that, with that business plan competition, I got a large sum back in the day. That was large for me, and started that business, sold it off, and then got this one thing out of my veins, which was like, I opened a nightclub. Uh,
Wow. What a change.
yeah, so
Wow.
opened the nightclub and then ran it for a bit, sold it to some investors from Las Vegas, and then decided, hey, I'm going to take some time off to just kind of see what's up. Traveled a little bit, and then got really, really bored. But then I remembered, that I should get into this profession because, one, I've helped my mom with all of her real estate dealings. I've translated for her, etc. But she's not the only person out there that needed help. You know, with these forums and deals and everything like that. So becoming an agent that can speak their language and help the Vietnamese community out has been a tremendous help for my career, as well as being part of the LGBTQ community and having a opening a gay bar.
Wow, wow. That's you said
It's
so much it's really impressive that you've really had success in three very different industries. The sort of, you were kind of part of the incubator IT sort of world, and taking good ideas and bringing them to market, and then switching over to the nightclub world, and that's a tremendously difficult world as well, from what I understand. And then
Mhm.
having
Yep.
success there is even probably more rare. And then, of course, having success in real estate. And I'm curious if there's certain habits that you cultivated that have sort of spanned across these different industries that you've had success with, that you could say, hey, I'm really sort of doing similar daily tasks, or at least daily disciplines that really sort of go across all these different lines of work that you've been involved in.
Yeah. So one thing that when I was going through school was everyone was saying, "Hey, you're getting your MBA. That was the end goal, right? You're
Sure.
getting your MBA. Why don't you go to business school and for your bachelor's degree?" And I went for my psychology degree,
Right.
and people ask me that, and I just answer them same thing as, "Who do you work with when you're in
Right.
business?"
Right.
And if they're confused or anything, I'll answer for them. You work with people, right?
Yeah.
You don't work with machines. You need to understand people first and foremost. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. One, you need to understand people, and two, you're always selling something.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter if you are an engineer. You're selling your resume to that manager that you would work for that national lab. Okay, an engineer is a salesperson. Everyone is selling something. And so, when we identify what their needs are, people's needs are, we can, go more in depth and help them and build that relationship with people. And so that's why having a psych background has been tremendously helpful. Now, go ahead.
Oh no, go right ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So having a psych background has been helpful, and I think the traits with any industry, to be successful in any industry, is going to be, one, first of all, integrity. Do what you
Yeah.
say you're going to do. If you're going to work in tech, if you're going to work at a nightclub, if you're going to work in real estate, do what you say you're going to do. That's if you go that far, like you're already more successful than most people there.
Can I
Secondly,
pause you? I want to pause
yeah,
you
go
for a
ahead.
second, just 'cause
Hmm.
I want to talk about that integrity. It's such an easy thing to sort of say, to just sort of define as do what you say you're going to do, which is absolutely the truth. But I'm curious, in when you're working with your buyers and sellers, do you set the expectation in advance and make sure that they are on board with what that means? In other words, are you telling them, here's how often I'm going to communicate with you, or here's how this process is going to go? I'm curious on that part of it for real estate, because I know that communication is everything when it comes to working with clients. And I'm just curious on what that looks like for you.
Yeah, if communication is everything, then yes, you should communicate how they're going to be communicated to, right?
Yeah.
I always say no communication is also a form of communication. If you're not
Yes.
updating your clients, you're telling them they're not worthy of being updated. So think about it that way. I also work on a philosophy of, if they ask you a question, you have failed. Okay, so I tell my team,
Yes.
if our client asks us a question, we have failed. If they're asking things like, hey, what's an appraisal? Well,
Right.
what do you mean? How do you not know what an appraisal is? Of course, that's not going to be our answer. Our answer is, you know what? Hold on. Write up the blog post, write up the email, send it off to them, and then copy that for the next client. Right? Because each time we reiterate, and that's one thing that we did with our management of technology courses. And now that just kind of I had a little bit of epiphany of something. So I'll touch base on that in a little bit. But we reiterate until we get it right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, if they ask us, we failed. Back to your question, do we tell them ahead of time how we operate? Of course we do.
Yeah.
Are you going to be the one who's going to control the narrative, or are you going to let the tail wag the dog? Okay, I tell them. You like that one?
Yeah, no, I love that, because it's funny. I interviewed a top producer here in Chicago a few years ago, and out of 44,000 realtors we have in the Chicagoland area, she's in the literally the top 10. And I asked her, I said, why do you think you're in the top 10? And please don't say you work harder than everyone, because I'm sure that's true. But what else do you think it is beyond hard work? And she says, this is going to sound so silly, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's probably the truth. I call every single one of my clients every single week and give them an update on how things are going. And I said, and she goes, that's kind of it. And I said, doesn't everybody do that? And she goes, no. So
Absolutely not.
I just was thinking that came to me while you were talking about the
Yeah, of
importance of,
course.
if they have to ask you a question, if they have to say, and even if it's just, hey, what's the next step? That's probably the biggest failure of all, right? When they say, what comes after this? Because then you haven't really prepped them correctly. And so I think we're talking about overly communicating, and not overly in a negative way, but making sure that any possible question a buyer or seller might have, you have already have that as part of your process, so that they don't have to think about it, and then ask you.
Yep, exactly. If they're asking you things such as, hey, what do I got to do to get my house ready for inspections, right? Now, of course, you can type it out in your text messages and just send it to them. Okay. Now I did that this one time. Next week I have to do it again and again and again, right? Or you can systematize it,
Yeah.
do it once, and send it out each time you schedule inspections to the seller. What is this is what I ask my brokers is, what is your business going to be like in 5 years? Okay. Are you in 5 years? Are you still going to be typing out that text each time somebody asks?
Right.
Or are your business going to be so good that you have to have your assistant send out that email? Well, if it's going to be the second, why not create that thing now?
That's a really, really amazing suggestion. So everyone who's listening or watching right now, this is a great, we do this here at our company. I work on the recruiting side. So I recruit realtors. I don't work with buyers and sellers directly. But what we've done over the years is we have every single question that's somebody who might be looking to join our firm might be curious in knowing. We have all the answers written out. And as realtors, you should accumulate all of these questions, put them in a database, put them in a spreadsheet, have these answers pre-written, pre-formatted, tightened up, and sent out in a systematized way so that they don't even have to ask. But when they do, you can shoot that out. But boy, that is such a great suggestion, is just write down every question that buyers or sellers ask you and have answers ready to go, and then figure out how to incorporate that into your systems.
Yep. You take, let's say 1 hour. Okay. If it takes me 1 hour to write out what's an inspection, put it on a blog post, put it in PDF, save it to, send this out after you schedule inspections. If that takes me 1 hour, but it saves me 1 hour every week, that's 52 hours in a year. Is your time worth that? Mine is. I charge a lot of money per hour.
Well, that's the other thing too, is what you charge per hour. That's another great exercise, is working backwards and figuring out, a realistic sort of goal for the end of the year, and then figuring out how many hours you're working that year, and making that, dividing that up, and then realizing if anything I'm doing is not generating that amount of money, it might be a good idea to outsource it. Now virtual assistants are so popular. The entire world will bid to help you with your business, and you can find some really competitive rates. But back to your I got us off track, and I apologize. You were listing you were on your second tip, and I apologize, I sort of got us off track, but I'd love to hear it if you could remember, if I didn't take you too far away.
Yeah, so your question was what between those three industries, is a common denominator. I
Yeah.
would say, of course, the first one is the integrity part of it, doing
Yeah.
things what you say you're going to do. Two is definitely systematizing things, which we talked about, right? Is whatever you're going to do repeatedly, write it down, systematize it, and then outsource it to
I
somebody
have a quick
else.
I have a quick question for you. So it's funny because you'll talk to some agents, although I think these agents would be in the minority, when you ask them, like, hey, what do you bring to a listing presentation? Almost everyone I've ever interviewed on our show, and just hundreds of people that have been on the show, have all said, oh, I have a whole process. I have a whole, for a listing presentation, for example, I'm going to bring, a questionnaire. I'm going to bring maybe a little, what we would used to call a war book, or some slides, or and then there's other people, but I think they're in the minority, but it's still not all that uncommon, who go, I show up with a blank pad of paper. I'm curious on what your process is, since you are so systematized. I'm assuming you're probably not a blank pad of paper guy, or you bring that in addition, but I'm assuming you have a whole process on top of that.
I have both. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if I have a listing appointment, I can message one of my team members, and I can say I need a listing padfolio. It's a leather padfolio for this address. Okay. And if I go pick it up, or I can have it delivered if I really need to, and I'm going to be at that property, they'll meet me at the same time, drop it off, right? It will have, let's say, any previous MLS sheets are going to be printed out. The house survey is printed out. Our seller's book is printed out. I have samples of our marketing material in this thing too. I have 2 pens. One of them is green because I only write in green ink because green's money. I have key tags, 2 key tags, because that's what I require from my sellers. I have my business cards. I have every single little thing that I might need, and also have a checklist. And that checklist needs to be filled out and checked to make sure that I know every single little thing is already in there. If something's missing, they'll write, like, get no previous data on there. So if I glance at this piece of paper for 15 seconds, I can go in and start right away. Yes, I have a blank piece of, pad on the end, and that I write notes in. After the listing's done, if it's signed, great. If it's not, I still send it over, the padfolio over to my team member. There's a system for them to deassemble it, input things into my CRM, update notes, scan anything that needs to be scanned, disassemble things that weren't used, such as key tags, pens, whatever. Those go into its own cubby holes. It goes into a separate slot, depending on where it is, signed, unsigned, etc. And then they also schedule onto my schedule for next week to follow up with these people. Or whatever task that I put on the pad, I say, get this, get this, get this. And it'll all be done in my sleep, basically.
It's really incredible. And for everyone listening, this is the year. This is, if you're not this organized and you don't have these systems yet in place, this is the year to do that. This will just ultimately, it will sort of ironically, these systems will actually give you more freedom in your life. It might seem constraining, and certainly, realtors tend to struggle with organization because the person to person skills, interpersonal skills, tend to be more prominent in realtors, and organization tends to be, something that a lot of realtors struggle with. But this is the year to systematize so that you don't have to think about each of these steps every single time, because you're likely to forget one, or you're likely to just make a mistake, because it's easy to do that when it's not systematized. So I applaud you for that. That is a really incredible system.
You want to know my secret?
Yeah.
I'm lazy. I don't want to keep doing this over and over and over again. I'm forgetful. I'm like, oh crap, I forgot a pen. Can you show up to a listen appointment without a pen? Hell no. So
Right.
so I just wrote everything down. I am not a good paperwork person. I'm actually probably not a good operations guy, but I'm just lazy and I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over. So then I hire people that are very good at that stuff, right? To help me organize and create a system that, I want this particular thing this particular way. Yes, it might not make sense at the moment if you're new, but then you come and see the hive, everyone buzzing around. But there's a dance to this whole thing, and once you figure out what you want, and which again we are saying is more freedom. I'm spending that 1 hour to save 52 hours, in a year, right? So I want my free time. I need it. So why do the same things over and over and again? That's it.
Yeah, it's so simple. And for those of you that haven't developed these systems, it can be overwhelming to think about building all of it at once. And I would encourage everyone to just start somewhere, and start with one little chunk everything down into little small pieces. And over, a month or two, you could probably develop a good number of your systems. And then you just have to run them. It's the same. It's funny. Almost a year ago, I realized I'm 44. I guess I was 43 a year ago. I said, I struggle with getting to the gym. My whole life, it's not something I'm naturally inclined to do. I'm certainly not alone there, but there are people that seem to have an easier time just getting to the gym and exercising. And that's just not me, but I know it was really important. And so I said, how do I systematize this? Because if I leave it up to me trying to find the motivation to do it, and to try to remember to do it, and to find the time, it just doesn't happen. Or at least I have, most of my life as evidence that it doesn't happen. And so I said, what if I hired a trainer? And I thought, well, that makes sense, because when I pay for something, I tend to want to use it, but also, there's a built-in accountability there. And so that's how I systematized exercise. And I haven't missed, a session since. Now it's a very expensive sort of process to do it that way, but it's the only way it works for me. And I wish I was just naturally one of those people that went to the gym, just like I'm sure a lot of us wish we were more naturally organized. I fit in the same category as you there. So I have to systematize everything, because I'm as forgetful, maybe probably more forgetful than you are. And so I can appreciate building these systems to help account for some of our challenges. And we're good at certain things and we're not good at other things. And having systems
Right.
in place are so critical. So I appreciate
Definitely.
you sharing that.
Yeah. Again, work backwards. What is your business going to look like 5 years from now? Are you still going to be the person that's looking through to make sure that their listing package is all together? Or are you at such a level that you have an assistant that makes it for you on the fly, and they know exactly what they're doing because you recorded videos, you wrote down everything already. Okay. So decide now what your business is going to be like in 5 years, and then act like it.
So I have a good question, or I don't know if this is a good question. Sorry, it's a question based on something you said that I was really impressed with, which is just having a 5-year vision, and wondering, hey, what, for all of our listeners, that exercise is so critical. And of course, what you think your business should look like in 5 years may change. It may evolve over time, and ultimately it probably will. But knowing sort of where you want to end up is really important. So I have a question, because a lot of people, I think, would answer that with, well, I want to work mostly or almost exclusively by referral in 5 years. And I'm curious, and I'm sure that you probably are already working almost exclusively by referral, but I'm curious if you have any suggestions for some walking backwards to what people can do today to help sort of set up that kind of future.
So on my door, right over there, it says on the top there, 28,571,428. Okay, that's how much I need at a 3.5% withdrawal rate for to gain $100,000 a month. So that's the money I need to be in my bank account or investments at a 3.5% for $100,000 a month. So that's one exercise I did is how much money do I want per month, right?
Sure.
So first, that's working backwards there, right? And then underneath there, I have my real estate business, property management, commercial, insurance business, staging business, leasing business, social media, fix and flip, loans, and SEO. Yeah, it says SEO there. So those are all my companies that I have also. Okay, because
These are all the funnels that ultimately drive in revenue for you.
yeah. And I already have some of those already. Okay. But that's posted on my door. I see that every day. Okay. And that's the number that I'm shooting for. Yeah, it's pretty low. Okay. 28 million is low for me, but that's what I gotta get to get started. All right. So the number one exercise, and not everyone, cares about the dollar amount or everything, but the thing that I take my agents through is called the perfect world. Okay. I have them shut their eyes and you walk through every single moment of your perfect day in your perfect world. And you repeat every single sentence in my perfect world. Okay. In my perfect world, I'm waking up at this time. In my perfect world, I work out here. In my perfect world, I woke up in this house and it has this many bedrooms and this is the person next to me. And I check my phone at this time. Some people like to check it early, later, whatever, and then what do you do next? What do you do next? And until you complete your perfect day in your perfect world. And then that tells you what your goals are. Okay. If it's you want to wake up to the perfect partner, you want to get more time for the gym, etc. You identify what you want. Yes, it gets pretty emotional when we go
Sure.
through this exercise. And then we ask the question, what does it take for you to take from today to your perfect world? What changes can you make now to become your perfect world? So, yeah, you know what? In my perfect world, I'm at the gym and, I'm at the gym with my trainer and I'm super fit, blah, blah, blah. What's the gap? Well, is the gap that, I haven't woken up and done this or I need to get a trainer? You took that step to bridge the gap between where you are now with where you want to be. Right. And so the perfect world exercise is kind of what I would refer to first.
Yeah, it's a great, I know some people refer to it as like future authoring, perfect world. It's really important. And you don't always have to know exactly how you're going to get from here to there, because sometimes even just recognizing the end goal will open up over time what those steps may be to get there. So
Oh,
if
yes.
you're like, well, I want to earn $1 million a year and I'm only earning 50,000 right now, that the brain can't really figure out how do I get from 50,000 to a million. But what it can do is say, here's the lifestyle I want. Here's what I want my day, my life, the emotions I want to feel, my physical vitality, my spiritual vitality, everything, my relationships, everything. And then that's what I want. And then and then the brain starts hunting for ways to actually get you there. You have to do the work, of course, which is the
Of
hard part.
course. Yeah.
But so I'm curious, is it been your experience that most of the major shifts that we make that will actually get us there are actually pretty minor shifts that if we just repeat them, sort of day in and day out, ultimately get us on that track versus sort of, if you want to make $1 million a year, you could get lucky and buy a lottery ticket. And I guess that's does happen to people. I don't know that it's a great plan, but it's certainly that's one way to do it, but it's not a very predictable way. It's probably the least predictable
And it's
way.
not repeatable either.
That's true.
Right. Do you just want to get a million once or do you want to do it every year and then eventually every month? Right. So that's the question. Now, the changes that I've made are probably minor, right? If you reduce it to the ridiculous is what I call it, right? You know, just reduce it. And then you say, okay, if I got to call 50 people to get one yes, all right, great. I got to call, I want 100 deals this year. So that's, 5,000 calls I got to make,
Right.
right? What's 5,000 divided by 365? And
Yeah.
then you just take that exercise, and then you can reduce it even further. You just got to call 14 people to get
Right.
100 deals, right? Can you, and how
It's a
long
pretty
is
amazing
each
return
call?
on investment, or return on effort, I would say.
Right.
That's an incredible return on effort.
Yeah, exactly. So 14 calls, if you have 60 minutes and you have 14 calls, that's an average of four and a quarter minutes. Can you spend a 4.25 minute every day to do this? Right?
Yeah.
Is your time worth 100 deals that way? And yeah, of course mine is, right? And so that's why that other agent you're talking about, making her phone calls, weekly phone calls to her people,
Hmm.
she's paying herself right there, right? And so it is very minor changes.
Same thing too with staying in touch with sphere of influence, right? Or previous clients. This idea of, oh my gosh, this client that I use that used me 4 years ago to buy their home, used someone else to sell it. And yes, of course that happens. Sometimes someone's, a family member gets in the business, and you're probably not going to keep it based on, things outside of your control. But there's so much within your control that oftentimes, as agents, we don't have systems in place. We close the sale, we had a great experience with that buyer or seller. They like us, they know us, they trust us, and we know they're probably not going to use us for another 7 years, let's say. So then the question is, okay, do I want that person to think about me 7 years from now? Of course, I think everyone would answer yes. But then the question is, what am I going to do to earn that for the next 7 years? Why should they think about me? Just because I did a good job? Well, okay, yeah, that's something. But what's more gas I can put in that tank over the next 7 years? And I'm just curious if you have any suggestions or thoughts about, I'm sure you do, about how to stay in touch with people after the sale.
Yeah, so let's address two things there, right? So the first thing, yes, if somebody uses somebody else, it's can feel like a devastating blow, so especially for the first times. Here's what I think: things don't happen to me; things happen because of me. Okay, and if I don't follow up in a manner that they want, then I have failed.
Sure.
Right now, flip it around. What are your thoughts when somebody uses you instead of their family member? Right?
Yeah, I
What
mean,
did
it's
you
it's
do right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a huge feather in the cap of anyone who's being selected that way, and that's where you need to think back: is what did I do to maintain this relationship?
Right. And so recently, I have had a one of my attorneys. He asked me to list something for him. His daughter and his son-in-law are both realtors.
Wow.
Okay, but guess what? I didn't do it to them.
Right.
Right? Things happen because of me. And so if I am electing to be the expert in my field, they're experts in their field, right? I need to communicate that my value is still there above and beyond every single other agent in this state. Okay. My expectation of myself is I'm going to be the first team to close 1,000 deals a year in New Mexico. That's who I'm going to be. That's what I project, and I give them every single reason to work with me, right? And so what do I do? Yes, it's lots of phone calls, lots of mailings and brochures. I have a magazine. I'm on the radio here. I'm on TV, etc. But be where your clients are, right? That's one thing we learned in management of technology is where should we put this product? Put it where your clients are going to be, right? Should we put it at Smith's? Well, are the people that are going to buy it going to be at Smith's? Great, of course. Then put yourself there, right? So be everywhere all at the same time, basically. And it sounds daunting, it sounds overwhelming, but look at you, you have this podcast, right? But then you have a system after this podcast to get it edited, sent out. You have this email that you send ahead of time, etc. Are you writing this email out by hand each time?
Thank goodness, no.
You have a system, right?
We do.
And you have a system of distribution, etc. Once that gets systematized, done, and everything, you can assign it to somebody else to do, so that way you can focus on the next thing. So follow up is so important, because if you tell them you're only valuable to me every 7 years,
Yeah, right.
they'll hear you. They will hear you. Okay. Now flip it around, and this is what I tell people. What if your client there at closing, they give you a bag of money now, but if you continue to talk to them every few weeks, every few months, talk to them and everything, they're going to leave these bags and bags of money at the title company. And as long as you talk to them, they're going to send you to one of their friends, and they're going to help buy and sell. And then you can grab another bag of money from them. It's not every 7 years,
You're right.
right?
I'm curious, when you stay in touch with people after the sale, do you have any just quick suggestions for content? So in other words, obviously if somebody moves into a new home they've purchased a month in, you could say, how's the new home? How's everything going? But let's say it's a year in and now they're settled. And you do want to reach out because you want to maintain that relationship and still add value to their life. What's some of the ways, or how are you communicating with them like a year out, where it's not, hey, this brand new exciting home, or maybe it's, hey, it's the anniversary of your home purchase. But aside from those more obvious sort of reasons to reach out, how are you how are you trying to stay in touch with them?
So it's not complicated to talk to people, right?
Right.
Everyone knows their Ford scripts. How's the family? How's work? Recreations? Dreams. That's easy. That's the easy part. But if you're blanking on things, there's we do like National Donut Day, right? Cool. That's a cool thing. We'll partner up with their local donut shop and send people coupons, you know? And so are you adding value after the sale also? Are you saying, are you out there being an expert? So if you have like news of things being built or new coffee shops, etc., you can partner up with them, send coupons out, etc. You can talk about community events that are happening. So there's so much out there that you can give to people. Your value should not stop after they sign, right? I have had, this, and again, this is working backwards, right? I work in the manner that I expect my clients to give me a closing gift. That's how good I am.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Say, and people ask me, all the time, what should I get for a closing gift? I'm like, what do you mean get the client a closing gift? You should work so hard and they love you so much that they get you a closing gift, right? And that has happened. I've even gotten like cash, just them giving me cash, giving the team gifts and everything like that. But that's the level you need to be at, right? To get where you want to go. And again, you got to determine where you want to go. Now, content wise, there's so much content out there, right? Nextdoor app, I don't watch the news. Trust me, I don't have the time for it. I always my stance is, if it's important, somebody will tell me.
Yeah.
Right. And so next door, people are telling you what's going on. If you're paying attention to the news, anything, NAR is going to give you things to talk about. You can give market updates. You can be an expert. You can talk to reporters. I write articles for our newspaper here too, based on what's happening. So there's so much out there that it's going to be paralyzing, because there's so many choices. I'm a
Yeah.
perfectionist. I don't want to be seen like I made a mistake, right?
Right.
So to a fault that I don't even execute until I have a mastery of it. And so for the longest time, I wasn't sending out postcards or anything, because I'm like, no, this
Doesn't
font is
look
not,
exactly. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
font isn't right,
Yeah.
and it's like Easter needs to be over here, but now it's like
Mhm.
3 Easters later, I still haven't sent it out,
Right.
Okay, so so just do something. Just do something is better than nothing. Holidays, change your batteries, things going on in the community. Here's new builds. There's so much out there. Hell, I even talk about, here's my new favorite app to some people. This app, I can scan things, I can measure things. So, I know these people already bought their house. Why would they care? Right. But hey, if you're buying a new couch or something, check this app out. Or, if you're buying a new house and you're in an open house on your phone, you could be measuring things. So I can talk forever, basically. And so just be yourself, just be who you are to your people. You don't need to be this professional that's on a suit, sending out postcards, to change your time or anything like that. Just be yourself.
We should also talk too about the importance of brokers. At least here in Illinois, we call them brokers. I'll just say realtors because they're called different things in different states. But how realtors can get support from members of whatever communities they identify with, and obviously you're a member of NAGLREP, which is the largest organization for the LGBTQ plus realtor community, and obviously there's other organizations to support other communities and groups. And I just want to talk about. I'd like to get your thoughts about the importance of getting that level of support from other like-minded or not even necessarily like-minded, but people who identify in a certain group, and why that's so helpful.
So I do a class on tribal marketing, right? And about identifying your tribe, why tribalism is important, and how you can market to these groups and everything like that. It's people want to feel like they belong somewhere. Okay.
Yes.
And it's not all. I grew up in an era where I was beaten up. They threw rocks at me in my car. They would prank call, etc. And so, and it's funny because just years later, and now we joke. One of the people joke. We joked in the office. We're like, "Does this seem weird to you that like everyone's gay now?" like back in the day, we couldn't be ourselves, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And then I realized that I don't want to work with everyone.
Yeah.
I only want to work with people who want to work with me. And if that's the case, that if a client it doesn't vibe with my lifestyle or orientation, I don't have to work with them. I'm not desperate. Remember, I am going to be the first one to close 100 deals or 1,000 deals a year in New Mexico. Does that guy in 5 years care if this person's a bigot or not? No, he does not. And I'm going
Right.
to close that gap, and I'm going to act like that today. Okay. And so it is very important to get support for whichever community, because guess what? You're not the only person that needs support. Your
Right.
client needs support too. I have had so many people talk to me because they know that I'm not going to question their pronouns. I'm not going to misgender them. And they said, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. This is who I am. I
Right.
don't need people to question, to say, wait, what do you mean your husband? On title. And I've had a case of that happen in Albuquerque, which is one of the most uh, progressive states in terms of laws for LGBTQ the community here. And the title person did not understand that these two women were married.
Mm.
And of course, they got married in 2012.
Right.
And she kept saying, no, we can't do that. We need the husband's name, over and over again. And then she said, no, you can't do that. And I had a meeting with the president of the title company here. We did training for that, for that group. Don't want to single anybody out or anything, but it should not be coming up, right? And so we have to be the first line of defense for our clients here. So not only do we need support from each other in our groups here, but our clients need advocates too. What
Yeah.
if what if that person who is denying that a woman could be married to a woman was their realtor that they walked in on in an open house, and that was their representation? Do you think their experience would have been good? Absolutely not. Do you think they would have gotten fair representation? Probably not.
Right.
Right. And so back then, when people were discriminating against if your last name was Garcia, or, if you had a black sounding name, or
Yeah.
nowadays it's, okay, these two guys are on a purchase agreement, so, can we send an offer letter, a love letter with these two guys, to this family? We don't know. Will that
Right.
count against us? Right. And so these are still things that I'm advising clients on. If they ask me, about love letters and everything, I have to tell them, it's not always that, a person is as open-minded as, working with us, or et cetera. So please consider, your offer still may be discriminated against if they know your lifestyle, et cetera. That shouldn't be the case. Right. And so when people say, oh, well, gay rights, you guys can get married now, what more do you want?
Right. Yeah.
you know
No, it's
they
it's over. It's completely equal
yeah,
now.
we're
Everything's
done.
equal.
Yeah, wrap it
Yeah.
up, like,
Yeah.
pride flag sales are down, we're done. So that's why people ask, like, why don't we have straight pride? Why do you guys have gay pride?
Right.
The fact is, we're not done, right?
Yeah.
We're not done fighting for equality for our clients and everything. So it's very important to identify people that you can talk freely to with these issues. If I came up to a colleague who, let's say, is straight, who has no experience with transgender people, can I freely discuss with them? Oh, hey, my client likes to be referred to as male, and etc. It should be not a thought. It should be just be boom, done, we're good. But it's not always the case. So that's why it's important to have support. That's why it's important to have a group of people that you can go to that have had similar experiences as you do, that have gone overcome a lot of things. And like I always say, I don't want to talk about the speed bumps on their journey. I want to talk about the end, right? But it
Yeah.
is important to let others know, hey, this is how I got over that speed bump, or
Yeah.
be aware that there are still speed bumps. That's a long answer to your question.
It's an amazing answer, and it's absolutely the exact same way I feel. So, finding your tribe as a realtor, the good news is there's lots of tribes, and there probably is an organization that has members for whatever challenges or maybe not even challenges that you're facing, but just wanting to communicate with other like-minded individuals who can help you when you do find those speed bumps along the way.
Mhm.
But also, and this podcast is hopefully a small version of that, because what I've learned after all these years of doing it is very rarely have I interviewed anybody on the show who said, it was really easy. I had a whole bunch of friends that were ready to buy and sell homes the moment I got my license, and I just had to pass the test, and then the floodgates opened up with business. It's almost, or a different version of that is, I joined this firm and they gave me every lead that I ever needed, and I didn't have to do any real prospecting. I've not yet heard that story. Maybe somebody's has that, and that'll be on our show at some point. But 300 guests in, I haven't heard it yet. And everybody has speed bumps along the way, whether you're part of a group that gets discriminated on, or whether you're just you're maybe not part of a group that deals with a lot of discrimination, but you're still struggling. It's finding a tribe of people who can say, "Hey, I've been there. I know how to do that." And in our show, we highlight a lot of challenges that people face. But I think that's so important to reach out to some of these organizations and see if they can be of benefit to you, and if you can be of benefit to their members. Obviously,
Mhm.
you're part of Nagel Rep and probably other organizations, and
Mhm.
I imagine that just provides some comfort to know that I have a group of people who are having similar experiences to me that I can share with and help them through their journey.
Definitely. And it's even if you're in your own city and you don't have any resources, you're the lone realtor that's in this community, know that we're out there. We're here to help. And if you have any questions how to navigate things, it doesn't matter if you're part of the LGBTQ community, if you're part of whatever community. I'm always open to talk to people. I give free coaching advice basically when people message me, because they ask me things like, how do you start a charity? How do you do this and everything?
Yeah.
I'll just throw it out there. And it doesn't matter if you're in my market and my competition, because you aren't my competition. You can't compete with me. I want you to win too.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And
Okay.
there's enough
So
business for everyone. And it is, I always try to remind our listeners, not that they need reminding, but I like to remind even the agents at our own company, it is called a cooperative commission, compensation as well. To cooperate with each other gets the job done. I would like to wrap up by saying, if there are any buyers, sellers, investors, renters in the Albuquerque/Santa Fe area of New Mexico that is wanting to work with one of the top agents and teams in the state, and the team that is going to get to 1,000 transactions a year, what's the best way they should reach out to you?
So I'm always available on my phone. My number is 505-918-9893. I'm one of the people that will return your calls. So, it might be a little later in the day, but it's going to get done. I am on Facebook at facebook.com/thekhoi, TheKhoi, on Instagram at the same handle. And of course, Khoi at hunterchaserealty.com. And this is for everyone, not just in our market, but if any agent out there has questions or needs help or anything, please reach out, because if you have that question, somebody else has that question too. And like I said, the more questions we write down and answer for people, the faster we can progress as an industry as well.
Well, I very much appreciate your generosity in appearing on our show and providing so much really amazing content. There was just been a ton of tips and advice, and I think all of it was just absolutely the same way I feel. So I'm so grateful that you took, and I know how busy you are, because while you might not be at 1,000 deals a year yet, I know your phone rang about a dozen times just during this hour, and and Khoi has a lot of phone calls to return, and this is just how busy he is, and this is so impressive to us that you would take time out of your busy day to do this. So thank you on behalf of the listeners and the viewers. We appreciate your time,
Yeah.
and on also behalf of Khoi and myself, we want to thank our listeners and viewers for continuing to listen and watch and support our little show here. The best way that you can help us grow is by telling a friend. Just think of one other real estate professional that could benefit from hearing this amazing conversation we just had with Khoi, and send them a link to the show. Easiest way to do that is send them right over to our website. It's keepingitrealpod.com. They can stream every episode we've ever done right through the browser there. They don't need to be a podcast app person, but if they are a podcast person, have them pull up a podcast app on their phone and search for Keeping It Real and hit the subscribe button. And Khoi, thank you so much for being on the show. This was an amazing conversation. I could talk to you for another few hours, and I know you do not have that much free time. So thank you so much.
I'll always keep some time for you. And I just want to throw it out there too, is I started listening to these podcasts and these shows about top producers and everything, and just keep listening, getting those tips out there, implementing one thing at a time to iterate your process until you get it right. Until there's so many people that want to work with you that you have to hire out, you have to refer, and etc. So just keep it up. It all will work out for you.
A perfect way to end. Keep it up. Do everything that you can and do it daily. And don't worry too much about the outcome, because if you just focus on those daily disciplines, like we were saying, 14 calls a day might just net you 100 deals in a year. And boy, now you're making me think about other things I should be doing in my business. So I appreciate the reminder there. All right, Khoi. Well, thank you so much, and we will see and listen. Everybody or everyone will hear us or watch us on our next episode. Thanks, Khoi.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thank you.